Starting this month, over 1 million Americans will open up their bank accounts and discover their Social Security checks have been slashed by half. And the worst part, most of them don't even know it's coming. But that's just the beginning. A 2.5% COLA increase is rolling out. The Social Security Fairness Act has been signed into law, and a federal memo could disrupt how your benefits are delivered going forward. If you're 62 or older, retired, or planning on retirement in the next 6 to 12 months, this video could literally save your finances and literally save your future. So let's break it down here in this video. So let's start with what's happening right now. So back in March, the Social Security Administration quietly reinstated 100% garnishment for people who were flagged as overpaid. After public backlash, that number was adjusted in April to 50%, but only temporarily. And here's the thing, that 90-day grace window, it just ended. So that means that as of this month, if you were notified after April 25th, 2024 of an overpayment and you did not file an appeal or request a waiver, your next Social Security check could be cut in half. And that's not speculation, that is straight from the SSA internal memos. But wait, it actually gets worse. So over the coming weeks and months, millions more will be impacted as their 90-day notice windows expire. So now this doesn't apply to everyone. If your overpayment notice came before March 27, 2024, you're still locked into a 10% repayment cap. If you're receiving SSI only, you're also protected at a 10% maximum deduction. Everyone else will have to be, or probably most likely be, in that 50% zone. And this is crucial, and here's why. Many retirees budget down to the penny. So a sudden 50% cut could mean defaulting on bills, skipping medical payments, or facing food insecurity. So if you received a notice from SSA anytime after April 25th, file your appeal or waiver and request it today. So don't wait. Now for the 2025 COLA increase and what that really means for you. So let's talk about what a lot of people have been celebrating, but maybe a little bit too early. So the Social Security Administration just announced the 2025 COLA, or cost of living adjustment, and it's officially set at 2.5%. Now, I know you might be thinking, hey, we got a 2.5% increase. That's better than nothing, right? Well, yes and no. So let's break it down. This 2.5 increase goes into effect starting January 2025 for most Social Security beneficiaries. So if you're receiving SSI, your increase will show up a little bit earlier, December 31st, 2024. So what does that mean in dollars? The average Social Security check is about $1,976 per month. So a 2.5% increase adds up roughly to $50 a month. Now, that might sound decent, but here's a problem. Your raise is already eaten up by real world inflation. So according to the Senior Citizens League, even after the COLA adjustment, the average retiree has lost over $370 a month in purchasing power since 2010. So that's nearly 20% of your income gone, simply because COLA hasn't kept up with your real cost of living. And here's why. COLA is based on the SPIW, which is the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. So let me repeat that, all right? Urban wage earners. You're retired. You're not commuting every day. You're not buying uniforms. And you're not living like a 25-year-old office worker. So that inflation index the government uses to calculate your raise is not necessarily going to reflect all the things that you need to have in order to be able to sustain a good life during retirement. So your biggest expenses are not necessarily going to be gas or gadgets. They're most likely going to be things like healthcare, housing, prescription medications, vision and dental care, long-term care. Now, none of that is properly captured in the SPIW formula. That's why COLA kind of feels not really like a raise. So what's the bottom line here? Yes, a 2.5% bump is better than nothing Yes, it will help some, especially if you're on a fixed income and watching every dollar. But let's be honest, a $50 a month increase won't fix $1,000 a month of pharmacy bills. It won't make up for rent going up about $200 per year. It won't replace the $370 a month in buying power retirees have lost since 2010. In fact, the research shows that most seniors feel worse off every year, even with the COLA increases. So if you're hoping this COLA will catch up financially, most likely it won't. So here's what you can do. So you want to make sure you go on your My Social Security account and make sure that's set up and active. Your personalized COLA notice will be delivered online in December. So make sure your email and phone number are current. You want to make sure you start budgeting with that $50 boost now. Do not let it get absorbed into bills and vanish. Plan it like a small tax refund and allocate for medical, food inflation, and savings as well. So look for supplemental cash flow as well. If your COLA isn't enough, you're probably going to need another layer of protection. And one last thing, right? There is a growing movement to replace the SPIW with the SPIE, which is the Consumer Index for the Elderly. That index would better track retirees' spending patterns, especially in healthcare. But unless Congress acts, don't expect that change anytime soon. So for now, treat COLA like a bonus, not a bailout. The real protection comes from being proactive, not just reactive to what the government gives you. Now, here's something that almost no one's really talking about, but it could quietly disrupt how your benefits are going to be handled this year. So on January 27th, 2025, the Office of Management and Budget issued a new directive, right? It's called the Memo M2513. And the goal is to realign all federal spending with the current administration's policy agenda. So what does that mean in plain English? So starting January 28th, 2025 at 5 p.m., there is now a government-wide freeze on many federal financial assistance programs. So here's what's directly going to be affected by this. So there's going to be nonprofit grant funding, community outreach support, disability and accessibility service funding, public benefit and infrastructure upgrades, DEI and green initiative programs, foreign aid and international assistance programs. But here's the twist, and this is where it matters for you the most. Social Security and Medicare are temporarily exempt. But before you breathe a sigh of relief, do not get too comfortable. Why? Because everything that supports or interacts with your benefits, like housing vouchers, Medicaid coordination, Medicare savings programs, and even SSI-linked disability services could face delays, restructuring, or even defunding. So the SSA is now under pressure to analyze every dollar it spends, and that means slower application processing, more aggressive audits, eligibility reviews, stricter requirements for exceptions, waivers, and appeals. So even if your check amount isn't immediately affected, the programs and the people you depend on to get help, like advisors, caseworkers, and nonprofit support agencies, might already be sidelined. And to make matters worse, this memo also paused new awards and renewals for grants and assistance programs across the board, including those run by Medicaid-funded clinics, senior centers, and many state-level outreach programs. So what does that mean? If you rely on Medicare counseling services, energy assistance, or subsidized transportation, you could see disruptions in the next months, even if none or no one from the government ever notifies you directly. So here's why it's important to you. This is part of a broader effort to reprioritize spending, and while Social Security and Medicare are protected for now, anything not legally required is on the chopping block or subject to review. It's also a warning sign. Expect tighter federal control, fewer waivers, and possibly tougher enforcement around overpayments, appeals, and even enrollment rules. So if you've been thinking, I'll call Social Security next month or I'll appeal the letter later, you don't want to wait. And here's something that might surprise you. The average retiree will receive over $700,000 in Social Security benefits over their lifetime. But one missed deadline can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So here's what you should be doing, right? If you're retiring early, you want to make sure that you go ahead and stay up to date and understand all the rules that are coming up, and you want to make sure that you stay informed with this. And I will be seeing you in the next video. If you're looking for more, let me know in the comments below what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.